Normally, okay, sorry, colleagues, let me not confuse people here because I see the random question. What I've selected is a random question and it addresses another aspect of counter cheating, the approach I took. But if you have a paper that is where you would need your student to answer only some questions, you need to make it part of the instruction. Unfortunately, we don't have a control in Moodle to say you have already answered the maximum number of a road question. Okay, so you need to. I suppose such papers they only have either 4 questions or 6 questions, and then you would ask your student to answer 2 of them or 3 of them. You just make it part of the instruction. But the only thing I need to let you know in that case is that the strictly the navigation need to be free, because the student need to make choices of which they need to peruse through the question to know which one to answer. So if you make the navigation sequential, then they are forced to answer every question. So you would need to make the navigation free. There was a hint.
Sorry, Mr. Ushona.
Mr. Unona.
Unona, sorry. I think that option, I don't know, somebody did it for me last year. So I told that person, I think it was Risulo, I don't know whether he was a contract worker. I told him that the system should throw 10 questions, which is 100 marks. And the question was more than 10, there were more than 10 questions. It can happen, you can. I did it last year, November.
So
okay. I don't know what he did, but I asked him to help me. So he said the system in such a way that the system should be able only to throw 10 questions while there were 15 questions.
I'm a bit confused, colleagues. Sorry. Especially with the option of choosing the question, you often find it in essay type, because I have it in my exam where I have 5 questions and I want students to answer 2 out of those 5.
Yes, you can.
So and I don't and I think when I'm looking at the essay, I don't know how. I just need to know, how do I give all these questions, but student can only choose 2 of those 5. I don't know if Mr. Unona gets what we are trying to say here.
No, I got it absolutely. I'm getting it. Yes, there seems to be another.
Yes, Mr. Unona, maybe I can just add to Ms. Namupala's question. In the law faculty, we still have the same problem. So we have a section B, for instance, and the structure of our question papers are very much coming from deliberations with moderators, both internal and external, over many years, So they recommended that we have a section where we have short questions and so on, and a second section B, where you give essay type of questions, because you are dealing with application of legal principles. And I want to add to what she says. So in my case, for instance, by way of example, so the choice would not be with like this example that Mr. Unona just gave us. So you will have an essay type of question where the students are expected to apply principles of law to a hypothetical scenario. But at the same time, you may, for instance, attach a source of law, such as a case or excerpt from a legislation, and ask the student questions, either short questions, or you could ask the student an essay type of question based on that type of source of law. So I'm very much with Ms. Namupala on this, In that section B is where we give our students the choice. Section A is normally compulsory, where you try to just cover your understanding of basic legal principles across all topics that you've covered in your particular course content. But in section B is where you want that choice. So how do we go about? And again, I want to take us back to the earlier question that she asked also. I want to attach an article from a newspaper, a case, an excerpt from a case, for instance, a short legislation, that's an act of parliament, or any type of source of law, and I want to ask my student question on that. You know, how do we get around that?
Okay, we will come to the attachment later, but let's first look at the selection of the optional questions. Okay, I'll check with Owen on that aspect, but I still want to maintain that the simplest way to address it. Let me just go back here. The simplest way to address it, if you have a paper that usually come with 4 questions, and a student need to answer only 2 of them. Okay, that is most the point here, isn't it? Okay, just in the similar fashion we do it in the conventional method. Part of the instruction will tell students answer only 2 questions from this paper, okay, of their choice. So the students then have to, but then you need to make it the navigation free, because remember, if you have 4 questions, the student would want to go back and forth to make up their mind on which question to opt for. That is a very important point I want us to take note. Then the student will eventually answer the question of their choice, 2 of them. Okay, now if the other colleague indicate, if the other colleague indicate that the system there was a time when the system could block, like, okay, you have already answered 2 questions. I need to confirm about it, because remember, number 1, the navigation must be free. The student can even start answering on this one and they realize, no, let me just go answer the other one. I think I would rather go to the other one. You see? So they would change their mind back and forth, you see, depending on how they find the questions. So the safest way, and it's practical, you set, if you take the scenario of the colleague from law, we recommend that you set 2 papers separately. The short answer questions, you make it a separate paper. Then the essay type of question, you make it a separate paper. Then that essay type of question, which you make a separate paper, you then make it free navigation. And then part of the instruction in the board is you only have to answer 2 of these questions. Select any 2 of these questions. Then obviously every student will only answer 2 questions. And then that's supposed to cross the case. But I'll definitely follow up with my colleague if there was any other way it could be done. Are we fine? Can we then perhaps move to the scenario of, can you then?
Mr. Unona?
Yes.
Okay, so because I'm doing what you are doing so that, you know, practice makes perfect. Now I'm looking at, you have this thing that's ticked paper with optional questions. How did you get that? Because I'm not getting that same thing. Do I go to the activity or what?
You mean to set up a question with optional question?
Yeah, this thing here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. This thing here, paper with under the under the instructions, there's a tick that says paper with optional questions.
I couldn't see your screen, my dear.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Unless if you are sharing it.
No,
are
if
you
I
on
may.
Moodle?
No, under regular, I know where the examination paper.
Scroll down.
Then if below that, it says paper with optional questions.
You add.
Oh, you mean this one? Oh, this is okay.
Yeah.
No, this is okay. Oh, I hear you. I hear you. Sorry. You know, this is a quiz that, remember how I started off? I confused it with random questions, and I demonstrated on random question. Now, random question has got a different meaning. That's why I packed it and I switched completely. So this I could rename it. Come here. This I could rename it to.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, I could rename it to paper with random
okay.
questions.
Okay, yeah, okay. I thought it's one of those options that we could click on if we have something with random questions.
Oh, no. This is something I added.
Okay.
Hamakali?
So basically what you are saying, so we need to indicate section A that doesn't that where the students don't have to go back and forth, and then section B with the essay where there's options for them to choose from. And when we set the essay questions, we set them all, but so it's not going to, how do I put this? Because remember, when you are setting the essay, it's indicating the questions and all those kind of things. I mean, the marks and whatnot, and then it gives it a total.
Let me cut in a little bit.
Okay.
You know, in the context of online, you would need to set up 2 quizzes. Okay, 2 separate quiz. 2 separate quiz means 2 separate quiz with different settings. I mean, with completely different quiz. You can make them successive, or the starting time is overlapping, such that if somebody finishes paper 1, they would go to paper 2 easily. Okay, so suppose section, you can then name it. For example, you would say if in the normal settings it was examination paper 2, for instance, in normal circumstances is paper 2, but now because of an online setting, you are forced to make it into 2 separate quiz. Then you can say examination paper 2 part A. Okay, so and then you set up another one. You set up another one, and then you make it part B. Okay, you can as well put either we use essay, but I'm sure for student we don't use that language. We say what is structured question, eh? Maybe you say structured, optional structured question. Structured questions. Maybe if you want to give a clue, okay? Maybe this one, part A, you give a clue to say short answers questions. Okay, so in this optional structured question is then where you would add those 4 or 6 questions from which student will only answer 2 or 3.
So okay, I think with the, okay, so, okay, I see Mr. Makali has his hand up, but a quick question now. In this case, because now remember we have the time, so the whole exam is 3 hours, and the students, because of the way the timetable is set, so some students have 2 exams in one day or whatever the case might be. So and we want, I don't know. So it means that part 1, you set it to start from, let's say, just for argument's sake, from 8:30 until let's say 9 o'clock, and then you start another one from 9 o'clock until 10 o'clock. So but usually you give that I don't know, yeah, leeway, but also understanding that the students have different writing speed or typing speed. I'm just trying to think how we can minimize some of these problems, challenges, knowing that not every student has computer typing skills. I think especially our students who come from different socioeconomic backgrounds, some of them are doing computer literacy for the first time in the first semester at UNAM, and they come to us in these subjects where they are required to do some of these type of questions. So what would you advise in terms of us setting the time, considering that the examination rules of time allocation per paper? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I'm making sense.
You are making sense. You are making sense.
And I'm hoping that because I'm posing these questions because last year and this year I wanted to die over all these problems. I want
Please
to avoid
don't.
dying
No,
in the
don't
next
die,
year,
please.
because I had to redo a lot of things over things that were not so clear. And students were disadvantaged on over a system that has nothing to do with me or them. So please bear with me that I'm asking these questions so that we don't repeat the same mistakes as well.
It's fine, my colleague. I'm really glad that you are asking. Look, I will start with the issue of time vis-a-vis the ability of students. I try to address this one right in the beginning of this session already, okay? To say, when your paper, you have a blueprint, assessment blueprint. Sorry, colleagues, for hands, I'll come to your hands. You have a blueprint, assessment blueprint for your course, where it's indicated it should be these papers and it should be of this duration. Now we say, in your department, you need to sit and you need to come to a conclusion and say, now that the examination is going to be online, let us look how much of our examination is going, what percentage, what proportion of our examination would require students to type. You know, remember, other questions become easier because it's a matter of clicking in the options, right? But the other part of the question would require students to type. What is that proportion of that will require students to type? And then you need to weigh and come to a conclusion to say, no, I think the typing is a lot and the timing need to be adjusted. Okay? If the timing need to be adjusted, now we would need 30 more minutes to be added. Minuted, and in case of eventuality, you can say, we met on this date and we took this decision. It was a crisis management and we have no choice. There was, like I said earlier, we were hoping for an institutional dialogue on this aspect, and to this date, it couldn't take place. It couldn't be entertained, not because people don't want, but because of time. People couldn't find time to fit it in until we are here, okay? Otherwise, such things could really have been addressed in that indaba, okay? Now that we are here, that is the only thing I can advise. Meet, don't do it alone. Don't take a decision alone, because there will be no uniformity in your department or in your faculty, and then if it happened to be a problem, it will just be your case. But if you meet, then you take a collective decision, at least it will be understandable that that's how things are done, okay? That is on the decision of how much time to do. Now, the other part of the question, did I lose it?
It's especially that the time, you know, students starting finishing at in terms of 2 sections.
In terms now of 2 sections, if usually paper 2 would take 2 hours, and you have decided that it should suppose you decided that even if it's online, we think it's justifiable that it should still be 2 hours. Then again, unfortunately, here you need to make to use your discretion and come to a conclusion to say the sum of time, the time allocated to part A plus the time allocated to part B must be equal to 2 hours. That's number one. Number two, let me go to the settings. Number two, just go to the settings. And I want to come here. Number two, suppose now this is now part one. Okay, if according to the timetable, your paper is supposed to be written from 10 to 12. It's a 2-hour paper. 10 to 12. Okay, so this paper, this part one, you can still make it if you wouldn't give. Remember what we spoke earlier about a buffer time. So suppose you are not interested in the buffer time, you want to do things exactly as they are. So then you say it would start from 10 until 2 hours, right? So until 12. So if you make this one 10 until 12, just make the other paper 10 until 12 as well, paper B. That will help your students not to lose time, because if you make, for example, if you make part B to start later, maybe some students are so fast. Let me also choose which one do I start with, because if they are all starting at the same time and the students they are aware that this is one paper, is just divided for the convenience of the type of question. Okay, so I can start this, but you need to be part of the instruction then. Okay, part of the instruction, very important. Just add the fact that this examination has got 2 papers. If you finish one part A, please do make sure that to start part B. Or if you finish part B, please do make sure that you go finish and start also part A. Okay, make it part of the instruction, but let all the exams start, all the papers be placed in the same time frame, so that student will have the flexibility of choosing which paper to start with, and also they will not lose time in case if I finish quickly with part A, and then I found out that part B did not yet start, but yet we are in the same time wavelength or same duration.
Just quickly pop in. I think that approach creates a lot of problems, because if we have one student starting part A, another student start part B, then they're going to share the information first. So better put in sequence. Let's say that one paper starts at 10 o'clock, another one starts at 11 o'clock.
Okay, then I hear you, but then you need to make sure that all your students at 11 o'clock, they don't have another paper from another subject.
No, that's very normal. The exams, they are, let's say, 2 or 3 hours. So you just divide, like paper 1 is 1 hour, paper 2 will be another hour. If exam is 3 hours, you have 2 paper, put each paper 90 minutes.
Okay, I hear you. Okay. No, I buy that as well. I would buy that.
In between, just give them, let's say, about 5 minutes break, so that they can transfer one paper to another one.
So you would then say, in a scenario of a 2-hour paper, the first paper should end at 11.
Yes, another one starts from exactly 11 to 12.
And the other one will start from 11 to 12. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that will work as well. But you need to weigh now. You must weigh very well to know which, maybe in case one paper might require more time, such that maybe you would say the first paper start from 10 to 10:45. Let's say you think, well, this will only take 45 minutes. Okay, so you would say this will just go up to 10:45, and the other one start from 10:45. Thank you for this suggestion. I think in the view that student might end up sharing questions, in that context, it's true. This would be the best option. Okay, let me go to the hands that were here. It was Hamakari. What was the second hand? Who was the second hand? It was Kariseb. Who is ready?
I know for me, you answered my question in the way.
Oh, okay, thank you. Kennedy?
Mr. Onena, I'm not sure if I was following attentively, but did you also address the question of optional questions? Or is that what you were trying to address here?
It's the one we are trying to address.
Oh yeah, okay. But then my question would be, looking at the examples or the explanations that you have offered, you see, you give them these options because you give them these options and they must first see the question, isn't it, to see from these 3 questions, say for instance, they were given 3 and they were asked to answer only 2 from the 3. Now, they must first see all 3 in order to make their choice of, am I gonna answer A or A and B and leave out C? So how will you do it now with this sequential approach that you have? Because I didn't really clearly understand that.
Okay, let's go there again.
Let me try to help Kariseb. If you want to give them an option, so all you have to do, put all the question in the same page.
Okay.
Yeah, so then they just choose. They'll just give them instruction that when they are writing, they have to indicate which one they've chosen, A, B, or C. But they can see all the question the same page, as long as they're not very big.
That is possible, but you see, the problem I had in the past was this. And I had to go back because the system marked both questions, because some of the students, they don't listen to you, they don't read the instructions that you give them. So the problem I had was that it's not like an essay question where you would put maybe question 1, 2, and 3, and then say, choose 2 from this. It was a type of question, 10 marks. The one where I had the option of matching, the other one, I can't remember what it was, but it had different modes or approaches to how you can answer it. But the marks were same, so you could choose between one of the 2 questions. So what happened was that some of the students had answered both questions, and that means that the system then marked the questions out of 10, because obviously that whole section you could only get 10 marks. So the problem is those who only answered one question, if they, for instance, get 6, and those who answer both questions, the problem is the system will then give you the average of the mark, which is not a true reflection of the actual mark that the student is supposed to get. So that means the lecturer must then go into the system and manually cancel one of them and enter the mark for the first question that the student has taken manually, which can be very problematic. So I see that this option is viable if the mode of response is the same. So if it's both questions matching, for instance, it can work. But if the modes of answering that particular questions is different, it can be very, very problematic.
Yeah, well, in terms of assessment practice, somebody can school me here, but one would say it's not an ideal practice, or rather the ideal practice, if you are to give optional questions, such questions should be qualitative. Such question would be essay type of question. If you are to give optional questions and they are either multiple choice or matching, it's not ideal in terms of assessment principles. But we are in a university, yeah, where things can change and there's lots of dynamics in terms of
Well, if it was
research and so
something
on
in
and
the
so
first
on.
place, I wouldn't even be giving a optional question in the first place, but it only became a problem because both times the question paper was sent back because there was no options given to the students. Apparently, in terms of the university rules of assessment, you need to provide options also to students. There's something like that. So the moderators 2 times now have sent back my question papers because I was forced twice now to give in those optional questions. So
I
I
agree.
understand, but I think in future, what I will just do is just avoid altogether and maybe just explain to the moderator that this is not viable.
No,
for the
no, let me
system
cut in.
working on.
Brother, let me cut in. Look, the point I was trying to make is this, is that let the optional questions be essay type of question. Let the optional questions can be there. It's not a big deal. It's ideal to have optional questions. But the concern is, can we make any other question as optional questions? Can you make multiple choice questions optional questions? Can you make matching optional questions? I would say no. I would rather make essay type of questions optional. That's what I'm trying to sell. But in terms of now technicality here, I hear you on the implication in case if it's essay type of question and let me go to the setting. Not here. If you try to go with there was a colleague who tried to advise to address your question area, and I would buy into his suggestion. You see at appearance, suppose, is it appearance? No. Question behavior. Yeah, it's at layout. You know, at layout, if you have 4 questions, you would want to place them all in one on a page. Okay, so if the instruction is up there and then you indicate the general instruction of the quiz is that answer only 2 of these questions, then that's a first option. Make it might force them to scroll, depending on the length of the instruction of the stem of the questions. They might need to scroll depending on on that. So you have this option. Another option, you can maintain on every question on 1 page, but then on the not grade. Where was here on the navigation, you would leave it to free because students will need to choose the questions. Don't make it sequential because sequential is a no-go zone for this scenario of optional questions. Okay, mind you, you have that paper dedicated to that paper is that section or that quiz dedicated just to that part of questions. So students will be allowed to navigate back and forth so that they make a choice which question to answer. But let them be easy. If they are multiple choice or other automatic questions, they will be tempted. I can imagine if I was a student, I would also be tempted to like, wow, see, click, click, click on. This question is also coming. Click, 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 click. Oh, you are also coming. Click, 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 click. But if I have the instruction to say answer 2 of this, only answering 2 of those questions, but I will need to type. Okay, apply. It's an application question. Mind you, the essay type of question are mostly higher order thinking questions. So we also need colleagues to critically think about the level of thinking, the type of questions, how we place them on the Bloom's taxonomy scale. Where do we place them on that scale? If all your questions are on the knowledge and understanding, and students will be tempted to like click, click, click. But if they would be required to really apply their brain, then chances are that they will know that this is enough, I was taught, and the time will not even allow them because the time allocation is already factored in to say, well, they are only to answer 2 questions. So the time that is allocated is just enough for 2 questions. But if you give 1 hour, suppose we give you 1 hour, and they are only to answer 2 of those questions, and and then those questions are again a matter of clicking. You know, it will only take 3 minutes to finish 1 question and 3 minutes to click on the other question, then they are done. So they have more time. Okay. So